Make sure you check out Miles Franklin. They have a special promotion on 2022 silver maple leaf coins. They're only $3.40 over spot. If you're interested, email them at info@milesfranklin.com or call them on 1-800-822-8080 and mention Monaco 64 as well if you do so.
And if you look at the United States, for instance, everything has been socialized for decades. And when you leave socialism, if you let it linger for a while, it turns into communism. And communism best friend is man-made famine. And this is why I started to pound on the table, let people know. I said, listen, you got to prepare because I know what it was like.
Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have a pleasure of speaking with Marko. He's from the New America Twitter account, and we follow each other on Twitter. And Marko survived a communist regime and hyperinflation in 1992, and now he's living on a very nice farm that I've looked at online in Arkansas. So, Marko, welcome to the channel.
Well, thank you, Mario, for inviting me. Pleasure is all mine. Hopefully, we'll have a pleasurable conversation. But the stuff that we touch up on today, a lot of people may not want to hear, but I think they have to.
Yeah, and I even have on my channel, I do playlists, and I have a playlist just for about hyperinflation because I've been warning people for many years about it because I've done a lot of studying. I've read books like When Money Dies, Fiat Money Inflation in France, and the world is peppered with events of hyperinflation. So I think it's very important. And seeing that you survived hyperinflation would be interesting for us to see what happened back in 92 and the symptoms that you saw then and how you compare contrast to what's going on today. So maybe you could give us a little bit of your background and tell us where you experienced hyperinflation.
So this was in the 90s, ex-Yugoslavia. It ended up splitting up in states. So basically, every state became a country, and that's kind of what, because it was a lot of social unrest going on, of course, and that's usually when the currency starts to deteriorate. People are getting more angry, and then the media is doing what media is doing today to put more fuel on the fire, and people start, hating each other. So it was just like in a way, perfect storm developing. And I remember as a teenager, not that I was following monetary policies like I do today as a teenager. My mind was completely elsewhere, as you could imagine, being a teenager. I actually thought it was cool in a way because, oh yeah, we got war going on, so maybe we don't have to go to school now. And your mindset is completely different than when you have your own kids and you you become an adult. You don't realize what is going on, and this is why I think a lot of people nowadays, even in their 30s, honestly, and some people that I talk to in 40s, they're just not seeing it. It's almost like in United States. I can't speak for UK. It's been at least 5 years last time I've been to UK, but so I can't tell. But over here, there's a lot of people that are just in a way in a comatose stage. They're not realizing what's going on. They're almost like in a teenager stage at the age of 40. So that was what's going on. And like I said, I wasn't following monetary issues, but I remember that my parents would go to the store and they would always come back with comments like, look, this costs twice today, like a loaf of bread than it was yesterday. And eggs was a big deal, is why I was tweeting on, every day that I believe eggs are going to go to $1 per egg in 2023 was my call. A lot of people ridiculed me for it, said, what is the reasoning? I said, for some reason, when it comes to communism, eggs are always, poultry is the first target, including beef, because of the source of protein. And when you look up any stats, if you look up anything on how much eggs are consumed on a daily basis, country by country, you would find it astonishing, the amount of eggs, and it's the best source of protein, especially if they are used, if they are if people use them as a supplement, like I said, if they can't afford meat, eggs are key. Okay. And this is what I always said, that I believe this reset is basically communism. And communism's best friend is a man-made famine. It always follows it. So that's kind of like all these little phases, all these steps I've noticed back as I was a teenager is happening, not just in the United States. As I read a lot of stuff, I follow geopolitics, I see globally what's going on. I see it as identical, step by step, that we are going into totalitarian regime, full blown, unfortunately, communism. That's kind of like to paint this picture the way I see it.
And I guess back in the 90s in ex-Yugoslavia and other Eastern European countries, you already had communism, but it was collapsing. And I think right now a lot of people don't realize, but the government has gotten really big. Here in the UK, for example, the government spends more than 50% of GDP, and people think that we're not in a socialist, centrally controlled economy, but I think we are. And what you said about egg is interesting because it's happening here in the UK as well. Eggs are getting scarcer and more expensive. I just saw a headline saying that there might be a shortage of coffee in the UK. So it seems like I think von Mises, I don't know if you're familiar with the Austrian School of Economics. He and also von Hayek said that socialism destroys the price mechanism. So when the price mechanism dies, it's very difficult for producers and people like you, farmers and consumers, to really ascertain what the value of things are, and then the producers, if they don't know what things are worth, they hold back their precious commodities or livestock or hens, and I think that's what's happening. And could you tell us, back in Yugoslavia, was the mainstream media, apart from dividing people, were they also towing the party line, so to speak?
Yeah, it was, and I can't really, remember all the details because, like I said, I wasn't really following too much when it comes to politics and monetary issues and all that. But I would just hear, we would listen to the radio on the generator in the basement. Right, we were stuck in the basement for basically 4 years. You can come out, but it was on your own risk because we had bombs flying over. It was full on blown on war. What was going on? It started out with soccer game issues between one side and another, a couple of stabs here and there, and then someone got killed, and then it turned into just a complete mess. And the lies that you hear from the media, like for instance, they would be saying one side is winning the war, right? And they said we're basically, or the war is over. But then I would see my friends, they just turned 18, that would get drafted. Like the military would come into the basement and take these guys that were 18 years old. I was 17 at the time, just about to turn, before I was able to escape in a way. But they would come in and take them. And we were like, well, the radio just said that the war is over. So these were lies that were so blatant, and we see it today over and over and over again. And this is why I'm getting like kind of like goosebumps when I notice it, how it's identical. And I believe this Marxist playbook, just the way history is repeating, it's always happening. You can almost put like Marxism, socialism, communism. I believe in a way, Satanism. Maybe I'm going off subject here a little bit, almost in the same basket. Okay. And if you look at the United States, for instance, everything has been socialized for decades. And when you leave socialism, if you let it linger for a while, it turns into communism. And communism best friend is man-made famine. And this is why I started to pound on the table, let people know. I said, listen, you got to prepare, because I know what it was like. I remember my dad, we had family in the village. It was, I think, about maybe 50 miles away from the city where we lived. So we were in the city, right? And nothing was open. Everything was closed. You have no resources. You don't have anything. So my dad would find a way to get to the village to pick. He actually brought a live chicken at home in the high rise and just put it on the table in front of my mom. And I don't think like we might not get to that extent in places like UK, United States, but if it does happen, you better have some connections with local farmers and know how to, have access to food. Try to figure it out. And I have some solutions for people that that I was able to put in my for my life as well. I'm speaking from experience without having any experience as a farmer. That was the closest to the chicken I got back in the day, was when my dad brought it at home. And when it comes to cows, the closest I get to them is ever I got to them is when you see them, when you drive around and you see them in the pasture. Like, I had no experience. I just knew I had to do it because we have kids and I wanted to secure that for them. And now I've been loving it. Like, it's been very it's been a lot of fun not having neighbors and having your own freedom in a way, especially through all this nonsense with COVID and all that, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's amazing, because I've been looking at your website, which is independencearc.com, and I think you were like in like 100 miles or so northeast of Little Rock, Arkansas. Is that right?
Yes, yes. So to get to the airport, it's about hour, maybe 45-minute drive. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere and I'm loving it.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, oh, this guy, he probably, his family they were into farming back in Yugoslavia, because, but what you told me now is that you have no experience, and you've been able to do it on your own. And could you tell us what made you decide to do this, to prepare and to build your own independence arc for your family and your, future generations? And yeah, and what, I know not everyone can do that, but yeah, what made you decide to do it, and where were you before as well? You know?
Okay, so I think that's a great question because this is where a lot of people, and I hear a lot of slack on Twitter. As you know, I engage a lot also on Parler as well. I don't know if you are on Parler. It's just not as popular as Twitter, but I've been on Parler a lot, and people always question, "Oh, it's easy for you to say to make a move like that and just buy acreage of land and go." And I'm just looking. No, it was not easy to do at all, but it's doable because if you're looking at, for instance, I was at about quarter acre lot in Las Vegas, and the house was about 3 times more money than I was able to purchase my property in Arkansas for looking at 40 acres land. The home was about a half a size. The home in Vegas was really big. It was like 4,800 square feet. This one is just under 2,000, but I'm getting 40 acres of land that I was able to get for 3 times cheaper. And then people would say, well, I have a job, I have a family. I just looked at it with all, the social media and everything that's going on, and so many jobs that people can find working from home. We did not have jobs set up. It was kind of a leap of faith saying, you know what, since our overhead is going to be so much less than what it used to be, and I was unloading on some cars, I got rid of them to make sure I don't have any bad debt. That was kind of the plan for about a year, just unloading on bad debt and making sure that my overhead is not too big. And it was all of a sudden I'm looking at these properties, oh, 250,000 for 30 acres, and the home was built in the 90s, key turnkey ready. Don't get me wrong, it is not dated, right? It did not have all the fancy gadgets I had in Las Vegas. So I just decided to make that move, and we took a big haircut when it comes to jobs and stuff. But then again, the overhead wasn't. It's just there is no stress here where we are right now. So it is very doable if people are willing to make that sacrifice. But a lot of people end up in their own bubble, their comfort zone, and now they're going to be stuck in the 15-minute cities because they're not willing to get out of their comfort zone and do something like that. It is doable, and it was not easy. We had a big dog, Great Dane, a newborn. I mean, Penske, the biggest Penske truck you can have, all the family back in there, 3 kids. trailer in the back with the car on it. I had an electric car that kept going on and off. By the way, I did not get the electric car because environmental things, just to make that clear. I just love them because it was easy to zip around. It was one of those small ones. They can go anywhere. And I decided selling it because over here where I'm at, I really don't need that. I don't need an electric car, that's for sure. And so the alarm kept going off in the back on the trailer driving, Penske truck, check engine light went on. I'm going to a place I've never been. I've never been to a state of Arkansas before I made the move, ever in my life. That was the first time I stepped foot in the state of Arkansas when I purchased the property sight unseen, and I asked the realtor if they can give me 24 hours so I can physically see it. That's kind of how it happened. So it is doable, but a lot of people are not willing to step out of their comfort zone, and they're overpaying properties. They basically are not properties. They're just buying walls. They're buying a home next to other people with no room. You can't even go outside, without people talking to you right away. Sometimes that's good, but a lot of times you just don't want to. I think you just want to be left alone.
So, what was your background? What did you do for a living in Las Vegas? And are you still able to do a little bit of that, or are you earning like are you surviving, subsisting in the farm, or how does it work?
Okay, so the farm was not even planned to be farm to table business that we turned it into. I just wanted to have food for ourselves and find any kind of job, maybe working from home or whatever it is, because like I said, I went to keep the math pretty simple, paying like $4,000 for my mortgage without including anything else to like 1,200. Like I really figured I can find any job, even if it's a low paying job, just to be away from the madness. That was kind of the sacrifice I wanted to get. And my background, a lot of people would probably be shocked by this. I was a director of tennis in Las Vegas in a big tennis facility. So again, has nothing to do with farming. I'm a tennis guy, wearing a collar shirt, pink tennis, whatever, pink shirt in Arkansas with cowboy boots now. I mean, it's just interesting. And I did a lot of trading, a lot of investing. That's always been my thing. I bought some homes. I was able to sell them, but that really was not my passion. I don't think I was really good at it anyways. But yeah, there was no connection with farming or any of that. The whole thing with farming now turned into it because a lot of people started contacting us, like started with friends and family members. Hey, I want some grass-fed beef, send it to us. And all of a sudden I had more and more cows, and it just turned into like sale after sale after sale, and it turned into a business now. But that was not a plan at all. It just kind of happened, and it was a leap of faith. And I just believe in my plan in my head and just being able to get out of my comfort zone and get it done. So I think it's possible, it's doable. It's not easy, but a lot of people should look into some properties, and I will give you some links for. I have no affiliations with these companies, by the way, like where people can look into land, to look for some properties, maybe off grid a little bit, especially if they work from home. It's possible, and to find something, maybe unload on their fancy condo in the city, and just kind of take that leap of faith, if you will.
Yeah, and I have to tell the viewers, well, I'm not affiliated with Marko or his farm. I'm just showing you this because it looks really good. Would you ship this to the UK? Because I like I like steaks a lot.
You know what? For you, just inviting me on the show, I'm going to talk to my wife later and see what the logistics are. I would ship you one of my favorite steaks for free, just to see how it works out, because we've never shipped in Europe to Europe. I mean, we've done nationwide shipping, but it's mostly like within 200-300 mile radius from us where people contact us, and a lot of times I personally deliver to the door. Okay, like I just go and put it in the back of the trunk, frozen, of course, with ice, all packed, and just go straight to people's home, and I just deliver it to them. A lot of people, I have some that know I love gold, silver, so they would tip with gold, and I want to thank Cindy for that. She's one of the regulars from Alabama. She comes in and does that. So yeah, it's like there was no plan for this, and I think what's exciting about for your viewers, if they decided to do something like this, maybe they went from completely one profession like I did to do something else. And now, by the way, I did meet a lot of people, and I am doing tennis again. It's nothing as big as it used to be, but hey, I'm still doing what I know how to do, what I'm the best at, and I'm still learning with all this farming stuff, especially when it comes to gardening. We are having trouble with gardening. When it comes to animals, it's been kind of, in a way, very easy, like for us to figure that out. But gardening has been a problem. But this year, I think we're gonna get that done.
So some people say, oh, because I cover a lot of gold and silver, of course, on my channel, and we get the comments sometimes, and other channels as well, that people say, oh, but you can't eat gold and silver. But what you're telling me is that you do accept gold and silver for the meat, right?
Yes, this particular person did not. We did not do bartering with gold and silver. She just kind of gave it as a tip because I decided to take the meat for her. But if you come to my farm right now and say, I wanted ribeye steak, here is an ounce of silver or whatever makes sense, I would do that gladly. No, I would not accept crypto for it. Maybe down the road I will, I don't know. But I would accept ammo, I would accept silver and gold, platinum, palladium, whatever. It would be an easy transaction between the two parties and no middleman. And remember, the
Yeah.
middleman is internet.
Middleman is usually the government, and they want tax. I see this. I mean, 5,200. It could be about 3 ounces of gold. I guess you'd accept that, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And by the way, these prices on this are going to be, for all our viewers, they're not, they're going to be way less than that. This is for, we just want to make sure if somebody from, let's say, New York, somewhere really as far as you can go from here, because the shipping can be pretty rough. So we just kind of have it like that. But when people contact me, I work with them on pricing, definitely. But yeah, that's kind of how it would be. Here is, let's say, 400 pounds of meat. What is the gold spot today? That's what I would accept. Where is gold? How many pounds you have? For sure. And that's what was happening in Croatia, in Yugoslavia. If you had tangibles, you did not just survive, you thrived. And that's what I remember as a kid.
Yeah, and you were in Croatia then, right?
I was in Croatia, correct, on Dalmatian coast.
That's nice. I've never been there, but it looks very nice. How long have you, when did you leave?
Just before I turned 18, it's just right before I got drafted, I was able to get out of there. And it was just a miracle how that happened. And that was just due to really good friend. I'm not going to name him just for the personal, for the security reasons, but he was able to get us out of there. And he knows who he is because he listens to the channel. He's the one that actually recommended. He sent me your videos. This is like 4 years ago, I think. Okay, he says you'll need to listen to this guy. I believe he said ex-banker from New York, or he lives in UK now. I've been following him. He really knows what he's talking about. So I've been following you on and off now for 3 or 4 years, listening to your channel. So you're doing a great job, by the way.
Oh,
I really appreciate what you're doing.
thank you. And one question, do you, because a lot of people, as I said, I've done a lot of videos about how hyperinflation, the symptoms, and that it's not just like prices rising, but it's also people losing confidence in the government, losing confidence in all institutions, really. And I feel right now, at least me and a lot of people that I meet within my circles, that they don't trust anyone anymore. And I was just wondering if you have a feeling. I know you're out in Arkansas now and you don't see many people, and that's a good thing. But do you get the feeling we're close to that? Or as some people would say, oh, it can never happen in the US or in the UK?
I do get out a lot because of all these deliveries, and now I started to do tennis, so I get out a lot now, especially last probably 4 or 5 months. So I do see a lot of people, and I always like to get the feel of what's going on. And I don't, like I said, I believe people are still very in the comatose stage. They're not understanding, but I can sense the urgency talking to the business owners, talking to, let's say, tractor supply company, local co-ops where they do the feed for animals, stuff like that. That they are, I believe, the crack up boom, as silver guru David Morgan, I'm sure you're familiar with him. He talked about a crack up boom, which basically means, for those that are not familiar with that, is when people sense the urgency to just go and use the paper, the fiat currency, to buy real goods, whether it's canned goods, stock up meat with freezers with meat or whatever, right? Fish, whatever the choice of food they prefer, because they know every time they go to the store, they see the prices go up double, triple, whatever it is, and they're getting worried. So I believe this is what's going to bring this whole system down, is when masses start panicking, because I don't see prices in food coming down at all. No matter what the Fed is doing, I don't see prices of food going down at all. I don't see my energy bill going down. I mean, just to give you heads up, for people to get an idea, like I have a propane tank that's about 200-gallon propane tank. When I first bought the property about 2.5 years ago, it was $200, $250 in that range to fill it up. Now it's $600. Same propane tank, same company, same amount of propane. Okay. So whatever the Fed is doing is not helping for what we really need on a daily basis, which is food and energy. So I believe as more people notice that, we are going to see items missing off the shelves. You can't find canned foods. It is going to happen. We've seen a little, it was like a trial run back in 2020 during COVID. And I believe that's going to happen again. Shortages of toilet paper. We had it in the United States. People thought I was crazy when I told them it was going to happen. And then they were telling me, yeah, we got no toilet paper here. So
yeah, so you think eggs as well is important. And it's interesting, the propane gas, because natural gas prices have dropped quite a bit, and it doesn't seem to have made any difference then.
no, I mean, I filled mine up just recently. It wasn't 580 like last time. It was like 540, but that's still not 250, 260 the way it was 2 years ago. That's still double. So again, and I go to the store, it's not like I have oranges in the back, like I need to buy orange juice. There are certain items that I have on a list to go to, Walmart. I call it Club W here, because that's like the cool place where I live, Walmart, Club W, to buy like yogurt or something. We don't have dairy cows yet. So just the meat, beef cows, cattle, in that range. No dairy cows yet, no milk cows. So I do buy stuff like that, and I noticed these prices, and I said, no, I just don't see this coming down anytime soon. And I see more and more people, like I said, going to that, as David Morgan called it, crack up boom. I think that's going to happen. And if you look up real quick, I can look up on my phone. I can tell you exact percentage daily of inflation in Yugoslavia, how scary this is. And a lot of people don't think it's going to happen in United States, which obviously means it would happen to mostly all of the world because of the world reserve currency status. If we go into look up into Yugoslavia hyperinflation, I think it peaked in 1996 at the percentage that most people, it's jaw-dropping number. If you're looking that up right now while I'm speaking, that'll be great. So your viewers can get a pretty good idea of what can happen, instead of thinking, no, it's not going to happen here. It's impossible. Just like a lot of people said, it is impossible for crude oil to go to zero, but it ended up to be negative $38 per barrel. I mean, it was short-lived, but it did happen. All right, so we're looking at it right there at the top, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, between 1994, Yugoslavia, Federal Republic of Yugoslavia experienced the second longest period of hyperinflation in world economic history. 22 months from March 1992 to January 94, inflation peaked at a monthly rate of 313 million%. Daily inflation was 62% with an inflation rate of 2.03 in an hour. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. The one thing that I've noticed, though, and I've told people, yes, hyperinflation is destructive, but it doesn't last forever. And that's the only upside, because as we can see here, it lasted just under 2 years.
Yep, and there you go. So that's kind of like what I'm so glad you touched up on that, because that's kind of the window of when it comes to preparing what you want to look at between at least a year up to 2 years to have, if you are on propane tank or whatever food comes down to, or something like that. You've got to be able to weather this storm if it happens. And if it doesn't happen, so what? I mean, like, yeah, I'm looking at it. If I don't sell the beef I have in my freezer, so what? It's the food I don't have to buy at the store. So I really hope a lot of people would do something like this. And it seems scary, but it's so fun. It's so entertaining to live like this. It is not so out of reach for so many people. You just got to be willing to do it and learn. I have another kind of funny story to tell real quick, not to take too much of your time, how this whole thing happens.
Don't worry. Take your time.
All right. So just like I said, for people to understand how this was no plan here, I did not come in and have like all this security of millions of dollars. Far from that. I was just a tennis guy. Okay. Like there was no hedge fund manager, Marko, making millions of dollars, buying a ranch in Texas and wearing a cowboy hat. That was not the case at all. Okay. So I ended up finding this person over internet, of course. It was a local guy, maybe 20, 30 miles away. He had some cattle. So I said, we're going to buy some cattle. I'm going to put it right here because we have a lot of pasture land. We were able to put the fence around and all that. I said, let's just bring some cattle, at least two. I got some freezers and put them in the garage, generators, whatever. And whenever they get big, whenever it's time, I'll figure it out, what to do, how to do it. We're just going to have meat just in case, right? So this man said, no problem. We agree on the price. And here comes like a week later, this old man, he must have been like 80 or 90 years old, driving, old truck with the trailer full of cows. So I said, oh, wow, I get to pick which two I want. I'm thinking, I don't know anything about cows, but I'm going to look, if they look kind of doozy, I'm not going to get that one. I'm going to get number whatever, 22, 23, and 22, 24, right? So I tell him, hey, I'd like number 22 and 23. And he says, well, go get them. First, he's got the Southern accent. I did not understand the word he said. I know he did not understand me, that's for sure, with my accent. So we looked at each other. I said, what do I do? He says, I don't know. You pick the ones you want and you get two of them. And I had a friend of mine from Arkansas. He played football in Arkansas. So he's a big guy. He's an ex-veteran as well. He's a veteran. A strong guy. So I said, what do we do? He says, maybe we'll just kind of go out there. You scare them from one side and get the two cows out. So we're doing all these tricks. I think maybe this guy knows what to do, but he really didn't. And he's from Arkansas. I said, how am I going to do this? I'm about to quit. I'm not getting any cattle, right? There's no way. So cut the long story short, I said, listen, I can't get the two I want. What's the deal? What can you give me to buy all of them? Because maybe as herd mentality, when you do kind of scare them from one side, hitting the trailer, they'll just run out, right? And he says, well, I'm just the driver. You got to call my boss. So I called the guy up and I said, hey, if you give me $50 off the head, I will get all of them because I can't get the two I want. He says, oh, no, I can't do that. That's the price. You got to figure it out. I said, well, I can't figure it out. So I guess we have no deal. So a minute later, he calls back and he says, okay, $40 off and you get all of them if you figure out how to get them all out. And all of a sudden, we just go behind the trailer, kind of hit it a little bit. One started to sneak forward. They all jump up and I look at my friend Bill and my wife and I said, now what? Now I got 9 cows on the pasture without ever having a cow in my life. And that's how it turned into farm to table business. Like I said, it was no plan at all. It was just food for us. And I ended up with 9 cows.
So
just
yeah, what happens when you have to get the meat from them? You outsource the
okay. So I'll explain how this works because a lot of people are not sure. Okay, and they're really going all over the place, and they would tell me, "Oh, I paid this much, I paid that much." First of all, when you struck a deal with someone to get, let's say they call it half a cow, which is usually about 200 pounds of meat. Okay, full house is rough. Full cow is roughly about 400 pounds of meat, like steaks, roasts, ribs, whatever, right? Then you have to pay to the at the processor. You actually have to physically go to the processor and pick it up because the farmer just bring his cow there, and then you have to pay the processor. So you might pay like a little bit of a smaller amount than some other people are doing, but you have to pay the processing fee, which is roughly $1 per pound or 70 cents if you get a good deal. So you're looking at additional $400 or $500 that you got to ditch out for your order without even knowing because it doesn't even say anything. So what we do is you just put the cow in the trailer, you put some sweet feed in the back, and they come in, you close the trailer when you know they're ready, when they're getting older, okay? I don't want to have them more than 3 years. And you just take them to the processor, and I wait for them to call me that it's done. I don't do anything with processing cows. I take them to the USDA facility, and I pay extra money for that because I know the packaging will be done right. And then the price that I have from people that are asking is basically going to be that price. They don't have any extra fees for paying the processor. That's all included because I pay the processor myself.
yeah.
And they do the packaging. It's just like at the store packaging and all that. And yeah, I've seen a lot of packaging. There is like not vacuum sealed right, so you have those little icicles on the meat, which is really not good. You don't want that. You want to make sure it's sealed. I've seen a few bags here and there that are a little bit loose, but I say 99% of the time they seal them really well. So if you go to your local farmer, make sure you ask them, do I have to pay for the processor? How much would that be? How big is your cow? How old is the cow? Those are the questions people have to ask if they want to put in, let's say, 7 cubic feet freezer, which is not that big. You can fit about 200 pounds of meat, and that would last the family of four for about a year, and it will come down to about 100, maybe 30, 140 USD per month for your beef. That's kind of rough. Actually, not rough, pretty close numbers for people to have a very good idea how it works. So if you had a full freezer, about 200 pounds, 7 cubic foot freezer, they cost about $200-300 at Walmart. You can buy those, and that's how you do it. So that's kind of the process how it goes.
So great. And so what I guess wrapping up, what would you tell the viewers that it seems like your story, from your story, I get that it's not that hard, and you just got to take the step and not be scared, right?
Yes, and I know it sounds like cliche. Oh yeah, like I said again, a lot of people cannot wrap their heads around this. I know they would think this is a lot more complicated. Remember, if you got the water set up in the big jugs for your meat birds, for your chickens, for your cattle, water is key. You got to make sure you have that. You got some fencing, and they survive on their own. It's not like you're having, that's the biggest misconception, because I've had dogs as well, so I know when you have a dog in the house, it's like having a baby, right? I mean, you are attending to this dog and you know that constantly, and there is nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm showing the difference between the livestock versus just having your pet. And you can't look at them as pets, you just look at them as that's livestock. It's the way it is, and they're out there on their own. You don't have to go there much to check. Make sure that your fence is secure and you got green pasture with water. And when the time comes, the trailer, I don't even take them a lot of times because my truck always has some issues. So I just pay somebody, we agree on the amount, let's say $100 to take the cow in. I don't even take them in.
And the other thing you were talking about is the the hyperinflation, how things are getting more expensive, like gas and food, and like shortage of eggs. But now we're also seeing like a lot of tension, not just between the US, NATO, and Russia, but also China. And can you imagine if China is like punished and sanctioned like Russia? It's going to make things even worse. Even though China is not really an exporter of natural resources, it does everything else, and it's related to the semiconductors. So do you follow that a little bit, and what do you think is um,
I follow it a lot. I follow it actually all day long. I get very interested in geopolitics, like I saying, or overall markets, investments. I have passion for it. Like I really get into it. Like I want to hear from all the sides when it comes to investing as well, and what people think. No, we're not going to have war. We're going to have war. What is really going on in Ukraine? What is not going on in Ukraine? I'm trying to look at it from both sides because I've lived it. I know how media can divide people and what they can do. And right now, the more I see it, unfortunately, you cannot make it up any longer. Like it is almost like, what is it called, Murphy's Law? Everything, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Like that's what we're seeing. Like all you need to do is wake up in the morning. If you just look on Twitter or just any kind of news, anything on social media, you're going to be like, what just happened again? Like people are just getting desensitized by the events that are taking place with food fires, um, meaning all these fires that are going on across the country in the United States here. I don't know what it is across the globe. I don't know what's going on in UK, but we're having like food plants going up in smoke, literally. Like it's just been crazy. So to think that war is out of hand too, I hope not. But there is not much I can do on that, right? We can only control what we can control. And I believe that's our job as being adults, to control what we can and not sit there and think, oh my God, what if the nuke drops on me? Well, you're going to be gone. Your gold, your ammo, your cattle is not going to help you. I don't live thinking it is going to happen, but I know everything else we talked about is happening. And you better have a year or two of resources stocked up and ready for not nuclear war, just for what's happening with hyperinflation possibly lurking, or it doesn't have to be hyperinflation. We can have sticky inflation in two-digit numbers for several more years, which I think is going to happen in food for sure. And people are going to go broke. They're going to be out in the streets looking to get what's yours. So you got to be able to protect it as well. Because what good does it do to have food if you can't protect it, if you don't have security? And I don't want to get too much into detail on that. But to finish off with what media has been doing, what's the biggest, scariest thing about this, what we are witnessing, is how much divide and hate they were able to push. How people just hate someone else who has different views. And this is where I've seen a major people getting stoned to death back where I lived because they were not aligned with the same ideology. Okay. And this is where we're heading in United States. And this is to me the biggest alarm that I'm worried about. Not much what China is going to do, even though I know it could happen and I'm aware of that. But I'm more worried about what is your neighbor going to do? Red flag laws, people ratting each other, neighbors ratting each other. That's what I'm worried about because I've seen it and history is repeating. That is my biggest worry. So you got to surround yourself with the people you trust. And you got to cut out those that are a liability. It sounds mean, but you have to, because if they can't bring anything to the table, you don't want them around. That's the time we are in right now. And you need to know what you can do for those people as well. And that, I think it's inevitable. It cannot be avoided at this point because media did push so much hate. And that is my biggest worry.
Even here in the UK, we're seeing the division as well. I mean, we're having like protests against a lot of the refugees that are coming into the country. The government seems to be robbing people in their, rubbing people's faces in it because they're paying for these guys to live in hotels, and a lot of them are young men, and they're like the people are not safe, and people are complaining. And yeah, and the media says, oh, these people are white, racist, and whatever. So it is happening here too. So it looks to me that you're not really a prepper, but in a way, you kind of have become a prepper, but you're kind of still living pretty much how you used to live. You just changed location. Is that how you would describe yourself? Not really, because you look at some
Correct.
channels, they're like prepping how to do this and this, but you seem to just move from a big city to a really nice place with a lot of land and people that think like you.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I don't want people to listen that listen to this video now to think this is doom and gloom. This is just a reality. Okay, there is no way around this. We, the people, let this happen. We allowed all of this that's going on is mostly our fault because we let it happen. Now we got here, and I'm just going to continue living my life like really nothing is happening out there because there is no reason, like I said, to sit there and hide under the table, like Gerard Salenti said. What is it? What they're telling me to go under the table, like the drills when I was a kid, because the Russians or whoever was going to throw atomic bomb, like that's going to help me. Like if that happens, there is nothing, unfortunately, we can do. Control what you can control, but sitting on your hands and not doing anything about it, not to be prepared, at least, like I said, for a year with the major mess that we are witnessing, not just in the United States, but globally. As you noticed right now, Mario, there is really no place to hide. Like, I don't know any country that I've heard that did not have issues during the recent health event. I don't even want to say the word because I don't want your channel to get flagged. So, yeah, there is no place to hide unless you do something like this and you find a way to do it. You just find a way to do it. You're taking a haircut with your job, what you were making in the city, but your overhead living in the country is way less. So you offset that. And that's the way I believe to do it. And this is not life advice. I'm just telling people, as you know, what I did, and it is possible. And I think a lot of channels need to focus on solutions instead of doom and gloom and live in this bubble of fear that bombs are going to start flying over our heads. For me, it already happened. Maybe I'm like this because I've already seen it. I've been in it, so it's not that big of a deal. So
Yeah,
I may be a little biased on that.
yeah. I guess Independence County, Arkansas is a good place to hide. That's where you are.
Independence County, like you're looking at Missouri,
Yeah,
Mississippi,
yeah.
all these states. You look at the prices of land, which I'll put the links on this. I'll put it on the YouTube here in your box down below so people can see because I can't remember exact name at the top of my head, and they can look it up and they'll be amazed what kind of deals they can find for so much cheaper. I mean, I was laughing. I said, what? I can sell my house for this much with no land, and I can have all this for. And right now we're renovating. Like I'm kind of stuck in the corner here because I got workers here. We're gutting the entire kitchen. Everything was turnkey ready, but it just wasn't dated. And I'm slowly adding things that we like at our house. It's not 4,000, 5,000 square feet, but it's got 3 bedrooms. That's all we needed. But
Yeah,
I go outside, there is no one around.
I mean, I didn't move out exactly to the country about 7 years ago, but we downsized and our expenses got cut a lot more. And I was in between closing a business down, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I used to work in the city of London in finance up until 2012. So I agree 100% with you. Cutting down your expenses and moving somewhere where your expenses are lower really helps, and it gives you more space, and you don't have to worry about things, and also be stressed. So to wrap up, Marko, could you tell us, the viewers, again, what do you think is the most important thing that they should be doing right now, not just in the US, but maybe all over the world, because we have viewers from everywhere?
Yes, I would say the main thing right now is to be mentally set. What I mean by that is not to be in this cloud, as a lot of people are getting depressed with the lockdowns, what happened and everything. The main thing is just to get out of that mindset is the first step, because if you're depressed, you won't be able to get anything done, and you'll be scared to make any moves because you're just going to want to be in your bubble. So I say to get your mindset to not be scared and depressed is number one thing, and focus on solution. Identify the problem, focus on solution. There is no way out of this debt that the government's created. We're going to see major financial distress, and that always leads to social unrest. So that is inevitable. So you got to do whatever you got to do for that part to prepare. And it's not just happening in UK. It's not just happening in the United States. Look what happened in Sri Lanka. Look what happened, I mean, in Netherlands. It is just overall Europe. It is just really just wild what we're witnessing, like I said, every single day. And not to get caught up with all those empty negative thoughts is key. And then your mind is going to get more clear, and you'll make the right decision for sure. And tune into Meneco to listen to more on gold and silver, because I really like I said, I want to repeat what you do, and keep those videos coming, man. I really enjoy it.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for coming on the channel here. Take care.
Thank you, and hopefully talk to you soon. Take care.